So let's talk about visual manipulation. One of the reasons why data visualization is emerging as a powerful information force is in the crowded, intensely contested world of social media. And that's why during last year's general elections, the president live tweeted many charts to illustrate the points he was making in his speech. Or that's why so many French maps during the French presidential election. Nowadays, everyone encounters visual information on a daily basis. While most people in the US and Europe are familiarized with graphs and charts during their secondary education, there are a small number of people who continues to use these skills throughout the rest of their working life. Later on, the vast majority of these people become unaccustomed to information being conveyed in these charts. So, if I can see it, I shall believe it. Humans have been communicating with each other for approximately 30,000 years, 10 times longer than the use of written words. Our brain is hardwired to process visual information. In the courtroom, in the meeting, in the supermarket, but actually in every situation, visual imagery is often the primary weapon of choice for those who want to influence decision-making and change mind. Take a look at any of your social media feeds and you will see why. The world-altering increase in the rate of information exchange caused initially by the internet, and now accelerated by social media platforms, has elevated the need for visual persuasion skills. I define the visual persuasion as using science-based, visually oriented method to influence the decision-making process of people, governments, and businesses. I want to tell you about a study on diagrams power. In 2014, Cornell Food and the Brand Lab published their study in the Public Understanding of Science. They found that trivial elements such as graphs can lead consumers to believe products are more effective. 61 individuals were involved in this study where they read information about a new medication. Half of the participants read just a paragraph about the medication. The other half read the same paragraph with an accompanying graph. The graph provided no new information over that contained in the text. It was titled Illness Occurrence, and the information was scarce, depicting in separate columns for drug and control groups, with a reduction of 40% in incidence of illness between those two groups. And then they were asked, does the medication really reduce illness? Only 67.7% of those who saw only the text believed that it would reduce illness. 96.6% of those who saw the graph believed that the medication would effectively reduce illness. In a number of situations, such as in politics, in media, in pharmaceuticals, and in food industry, where many people can be reached, this side of human nature can be taken advantage of. There is no problem with it until it's not used for misdirections. Mashan Zar-Aviv is a designer, an educator, and a media activist based in Tel Aviv and New York. He classified the type of lie into 3 categories. The first is the transparent lies. Let's look at a simple example. This is a part of map which shows the gastropod of Lake Balaton here in Hungary. What is the obvious lie here? The used icons, such as a tree icon, represent more than one tree. That is obvious. And I know there is not just one bottle of wine. Yeah! The second type of lie is the white lies. The best example for this visual lie is our world map. World maps are lie, but they all lie about different parameters. Thus, the things that are chosen to be distorted in a map provide us with clear insight into human behavior. The map most commonly used in the world is the Mercator map. This is the map that we see in our classrooms all over the world. Most of us have grown up with this world image. This is also the map that formulates our basic ideas of what our planet looks like. In fact, even Google Maps and Tableau also use the Mercator map projection for mapping. Okay, but what is the problem with this? Please allow me to show you the real world. Let's take a good look at the map again. Go on, really look at it. One of the dangers of the Mercator map is that it can make the countries enlarge. That's why they seem unnaturally powerful and intimidating. Flat maps significantly distort the size of countries and continents, the result of converting a spherical surface to a handy rectangle. The area of landmasses becomes increasingly exaggerated toward the poles. That's why Africa, sitting on the equator, reasonably undistorted, is left looking much smaller than it really is. However, Africa is huge. It is 14 times the size of Greenland and 4 times the size of North America, despite the fact that in Mercator map, Greenland and North America larger. That was not a big problem for the 16th century sailors, of course. Kay Kaus, a computer graphics guru, caused a stir with a map entitled The True Size of Africa, which showed the outlines of other countries crammed into the outline of the African continent. His aim was to make a small contribution in the fight against rampant immapancy, in particular the fact that most people don't realize how much the ubiquitous Mercator projection distorts the relative size of countries. From guiding 16th century explorers on the high seas to helping people find Pokemons on their smartphones, Mercator's work continues to influence how people see the world centuries after his death. In any case, it is thoughtful why we have been using this map despite many challenges to their fairness and accuracy, because they underpin the ongoing Anglo-Euro-American presumption that the world belongs to them and pivots around these geocultural axes. If you would like to know more about the rest of map projections, I really recommend you check Chris DeMartini's and Tamás Földi's common project about it. I really like it. So, now let's go to the third type of lie, which conveys bias. I just call it visual spin. I would like to show some political examples. How does politics skew the data? Do you remember for the last American president election? I'm sure you do. So, Donald Trump has posted more than 40 bar chart graphics showing favorable poll result. And here is a chart the campaign tweeted on 5th of October. Notice anything strange about it? How tall are the bars in the chart? Now, instead of ending at a clearly defined baseline, the bars fade to black. But if we add the baseline at the bottom of the graphic, the implied scale doesn't match the numbers. It is confused. The chart visually inflates Trump's 2-point lead to over 11 points. If we adjust our scale to match the data, where would the baseline end up? Bar charts represent data using length. It is obvious. And this means that if the bars don't begin at 0, comparisons between bar length will distort the data. So just look at this example. Bars A and B are nearly equal in length, but we can aggregate A's lead over B by cutting off the scale. The distortion can also work in reverse. Trump used both manipulation versions depending on which suited his interest better. And what about Hillary Clinton? Don't think that she was saint. So let's see if this bar chart compares wage gaps between men and women by race. Also has scale issues. Can you see it? The chart uses light gray bars to represent 100% of the median wage of white men. The bar comparing the median wage of white women to that of white men is labeled 75% but reaches nearly 80%. So this scale error makes the wage gap appear smaller than the data suggests it really is. Congratulations! Nice work, Mr. and Mrs. Honesty. Sometimes, do you feel that, oh, I have seen before it, but it was in the other context? Now, I would like to show you another kind of visual manipulation. The topic is abortion. The question is, should abortion be legal? In America, Gallup has been surveying this issue with the public for 20 years now. With respect to the abortion issue, would you consider yourself to be pro-choice or pro-life? This chart shows the result of the survey. After 7 years, on the outs, choice is back. For the first time since 28, significantly more Americans identify as pro-choice, 50%, than pro-life, 40%, according to Gallup. I show it just a moment. So, 2008, and more Americans identify as pro-choice, is 50%, than pro-life is 44%. So this chart is the starting point. In 28, the Associated Press AP wanted to tell a good story with using this data. They skewed the graph's proportion a bit and changed the starting point of the vertical axis. They used stronger lines, and a clear shift in opinion makes for a much more interesting story. Also, in the same year, in 29, LiveAction.org, a pro-life site, wanted to visualize the same data to say, we are winning. They focused on a shorter time frame and chose the from 18 to 29 years old age bracket to tell a story of consistent increased hopes. There is nothing about the data that isn't true because they use the same data set, but it's very selective. However, if you use the first graph and is further up, so this one, so if we use the first graph and extend this selective data for 2 more years, the lines might look like this. So this graph presents a much less definitive trend. It still misrepresents the data, but less selectively. These selective readings are what we consider as manipulations in the choice of structure. So, as Marshall Avis says, the presentation layer that's when our option for manipulation really widen. We get to use contrast and color, size and composition, shape and typography, movement and interaction. Every choice is an opportunity to suggest a specific reading of the data, an opportunity to lie while seemingly telling the truth. So, apart from politics, the food industry is another great area that is trying to influence us. Here, the horizontal bar chart shows the KFC crispy chicken twister contains just 650 calories compared with the other big fast food chains products. When I see this bar, I can feel that if I choose KFC, I will eat much less calories than I had chosen taco, burger, or Wendy's. What will happen if we correct the axis? The difference between the fast food restaurant's product will be much smaller. So, did it make any changes in your mind? The food industry is very cunning, so keep your eyes open. And what about you? Have you never lied? Really? Could you please open your CV? So have you lied with truthful data before? But don't worry, because everybody lies. Even the president is no exception. Unfortunately, we got to the end of the presentation and my time is up, I'm afraid. I hope you can forgive me for being so outspoken, but I wanted to bring examples that are part of our everyday life and we all might face it. And also forgive me for my Hungarian accent. So thank you again.
Yvette, this is Emily. Could you just flip back really quickly to that resources slide?
Oh yes, just a moment. I'm trying, sorry.
Okay. So while you're looking for that, thank you for that. I think that for your presentation, it was actually interesting that this one was generally in the realm of visualization and less so about Tableau. So some things that I was thinking about were how we can translate that into. Thanks for the sources, we can see them. So what I was thinking about and kind of something that I wanted to pick your brain with was related to the use of Tableau. I can see such things with the visual perception of the length, the position, the size, and those are the concepts that you were displaying very well. I can see that in Tableau being like an axis that has 0 or a synchronized axes. What other types of areas of Tableau can you see some of those concepts being used in the product?
So my opinion is that because we see more and more diagrams and data visualization day to day, and therefore understanding and reading of these charts will be indispensable. And because we are data visualization experts, we work data every day and communicate in visual form. So for us, it's easier to discover the visual bias and misdirection. And I think it doesn't depend on you use BI softwares or whatever. So I like Tableau because when I start to create, for example, a bar chart, it will begin from 0 immediately and don't cut the y-axis. So, but for example, in Hungary, and as I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, a small number of people who learn about this in school.